this recipe. We are making one of my all-time favorite dishes because you can use it for so many different things. So we are doing fajitas, and we're gonna make a marinade first. So the marinade you can use on chicken, which is my favorite, or you can do it on beef, like with a flank steak or a skirt steak works really well too. That's what we normally do in class with our beef money. But I'm gonna do chicken steaks, that's my favorite. And once you grill this, we're gonna use some onions and peppers as well. You can make burrito bowls out of it. You can use it for, what else? You like it for nachos?
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can just eat a fajita with it. You can do lots of different things with it. So I'm going to be doubling my recipe because I like to make extra of it, and then we eat it for leftovers during the week. So we're gonna start with the marinade, and Ryan is gonna see if he can remember all the different ingredients that goes into it. What do you got first?
Olive oil.
Olive oil. And remember, I'm doubling mine. You can just do the recipe as is. Okay, let's go. Keep going.
Salt.
Salt.
Pepper flakes.
Red pepper flakes. 3 for 3. What's that one?
Minced garlic.
Minced garlic. Good job.
Sugar.
A little bit of sugar. That's going to help with some browning with it.
Lime juice.
Yep, we've got fresh squeezed lime juice. And sometimes it's kind of hard to know when you're at the store how many limes to get for things like that. You probably, depending on the size of the lime, need 2, maybe 3 limes for that, and we're going to use limes for something else later. When you get limes at the grocery store, you want to pick it up and it should feel heavier than what it seems like it should feel. That tells you that there's a lot of juice to it. If you pick it up and it's really light, you don't want to get that one because that means it's drying out and there's not very much juice in it. You remember how to say it? Worcestershire sauce. Alright, and then what else? Remember that one?
Chili powder.
Chili powder.
Cumin.
So chili powder and cumin are both kind of the taco season flavorings.
And pepper.
And then some black pepper. Yep. Alright, and then we're just going to stir that up. And then we're going to make sure that we get our veggies ready and our protein ready. And then we'll be ready to put the marinade on. Alright, so to go with our fajitas, we're going to cut up some bell peppers and some onion, and you can do that to whatever your preference is. I'm doubling mine, so I'm doing 2 small, my onions are smaller, so I'm doing a couple of those. I did a green pepper already. I'm going to do a red bell pepper. They look better, more appealing if you have some different colored peppers, but they don't have to be. So remember, with our peppers, we cut down with the chicken scampi the other day. You want to make sure you're using a cutting board. We're holding our knife the right way, so thumb on one side of the blade, first finger curled on the other side. This hand goes in the, what do we do? What's that called?
Claw.
The claw. Good job. Okay. And I'm just going to cut planks off of my pepper again. And remember, if you can find where those ribs are at, you can cut around those in one motion. That way you don't have to go back and cut those off again later. And then we're just going to cut these into long strips. And I'm using a Ziploc bag to put my veggies in and my protein in. And we're just going to cut these into sticks. I like using Ziplocs when we marinate things, or a lot of different things if it fits in one, because the marinade, you can get it wrapped around your product a lot easier. If you don't have Ziploc bags, you can just put it in a container. You'll just probably have to stir it up a little bit during that marinating time, so that way all of it gets coated in it. So we've got our pepper, and then I'll show you how to do an onion one more time if that's been a little while for you. So remember, we have the root and the top. We're going to cut both of those off first, and that'll make it easier to peel. And then I'm going to cut it in half, and then we'll be able to take the peeling off of the outside. And then we're gonna cut these just into strips again, just like we did for our bell peppers. We want those to be about the same size. And normally I would use a bigger onion than this. We're pretty small, but it's what I have at home right now. So I'll just cut those into some long strips. Add that to our bag. And then we're going to pour our marinade into the 2 bags that I have. Okay, stop it. Alright, so we just finished cutting up our veggies. So we've got a Ziploc bag full of that. And I rolled the top over on both of my bags. That just helps keep the top cleaner when we pour in the marinade, and when you're putting, like when I put my raw chicken in a little bit ago, I rolled the top of the bag over first. That way I didn't get raw chicken on the outside of the bag. But I've got a couple of pounds of chicken breast in a Ziploc bag, and then I'm gonna keep them in a baking dish in the fridge just in case the bag leaks, that we don't have a mess all over the place. But again, using the bags is gonna help that marinade to really get around all of your products. So I have this much marinade to go on these 2 products. I want most of it on my chicken. I wanna make sure I have a little bit in my veggies to coat those. Okay, ready? So we'll pour a little bit in there. And then we're gonna pour most of it in our chicken. And that marinade is gonna separate out pretty quick, so you wanna make sure you stir it right before you use it. And then I'm gonna seal the bag up, and then we just wanna shake it. And this one, just try to make sure you get all those veggies coated. And then after we do this, it's just gonna sit for a few hours. It's gonna pretty much take care of itself, but this is gonna give them a lot of flavor. All right, so this one, and I don't have a whole lot of extra. It's pretty much just coated my veggies, and that's what I want on that because I want most of it on my chicken. So then we're gonna roll the top on this one, and we're gonna seal it up, get the air out of it. That's also gonna help make sure that you get that marinade all over your chicken. And I just want to move that around. We can go ahead and lay it out flat now and make sure that that marinade gets in between all of the pieces of chicken. And I can just throw this one on top, and then that can go in the fridge. It needs to marinate for a couple of hours. You don't want to go too long with marinades, especially when they have an acid in it, like our lime juice, because it will start to break down the protein. So a couple hours is all we need in order to give those the flavor that we want. And if we were doing something like beef, or well, really anything, but marinades can also be used to help tenderize a little bit. So our chicken's already tender, but it's going to give it a lot of flavor. So we'll come back in a couple of hours and we'll be ready to start cooking those. Okay, we're gonna make some cilantro lime rice to go with our fajitas. So Ryan's gonna help rinse the rice. We're doing 2 cups of rice. You could do 1. I just want to have extra. You always want to, oh, just put it down in the water, buddy. You always want to rinse your rice before you use it. That's going to get all the extra starch out of it. So you can put it in a strainer, and then you can put it in a bowl. You can just run water through it, but we want to do that until the water runs clear. That way we get all of the excess starch out of it, and our rice won't clump together. Keep shaking it. All right, Ryan's been rinsing the rice for just a little bit, and you can see that the water coming through the rice now is completely clear. So we're going to shake off the excess water. Shake a little bit. We just want to get all that excess water out of there, and then we're going to be ready to start cooking our rice. Yep. All right, and then I'm going to use my Instant Pot to cook the rice. If you have one at home, I highly recommend it. If you don't, you can cook it on the stove. Your numbers will be just a little bit different. But I have a tablespoon of olive oil in the Instant Pot, and I'm going to hit saute for a minute. That's just going to heat the bottom of the Instant Pot, and then we're going to just cook the rice in there. Do you want to pour it in? We're going to cook the rice in there for just a few minutes until it starts to brown just a little bit. And what that does is it helps your rice to stay as individual pieces when it cooks instead of clumping together. So the first part would be rinsing your rice really well like we did. And the second part is going to be letting this cook for just a second until it starts to brown. All right, our rice is cooked for just a minute. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add 2 cups of chicken stock. When you cook rice in the Instant Pot, it's an equal ratio of rice, equal ratio of rice to liquid. And you could use just water for this, but the chicken stock's gonna give it just a little bit more flavor. You stir it up. We'll stir that up just a little bit, double check nothing is stuck to the bottom, and then I'm gonna turn this saute off. And then here in just a second, once we're ready, we'll make sure all the rice is under the liquid, and then we're gonna set it on manual for 3 minutes. And then when the timer goes off at 3 minutes, we will do a quick release on it and let out all the pressure. Okay, you can stop, buddy. Take that up. Okay, so we're gonna hit manual, and then we're gonna change that to 3 minutes. Doesn't take very long. And then that's gonna start doing its own thing. You always make sure the seal's in the lid well, and that the vent is closed on it. And as soon as the timer goes off on that, we're gonna do a quick release. All right, so our rice is cooking in the Instant Pot. If you don't have an Instant Pot at home, you can cook rice on the stovetop. Do the same steps. Rinse the rice really well, and brown it just a little bit in a big saucepan or a stock pot, whichever you have. And then you're going to add 2 times the liquid. So if you used a cup of rice, you'd use 2 cups of liquid. If you did 2 cups of rice like I did, it would be 4 cups of liquid. Bring that up to a boil, and then turn it down to a simmer, put a lid on it, and let it just put it on low until it cooks and the rice is tender, all the liquid is absorbed. Instant Pot I just like, because if you do everything correctly, it turns out perfect every time. We can use a rice cooker if you have one of those at home. So to go with that, since it's a cilantro lime rice, Brian is going to zest a lime for us. So we're going to pull the zest off. We're also going to get the juice out of the lime. That's going to go in after the rice is done cooking. We'll also add just a little bit of butter to it. We're also going to make some salsa to go with our fajitas. Oh, not quite so much. Yep, do a little bit less. There you go. So if tomatoes aren't in season, it's not summertime, I almost always use canned tomatoes because the tomatoes at the grocery store just don't have much flavor. So my normal recipe, I would use a can of diced tomatoes drained, and then a can of Rotel drained. But we are out of Rotel right now, so we're gonna improvise a little bit. So I'm gonna use 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Basically, you need tomatoes. We're gonna add a little bit of an onion. So I'm doing a small onion, or half of an onion if it's larger. I like cilantro a lot, so we're gonna add quite a bit of cilantro, just a big handful of it. Add some salt. You need something to give it heat. So if you're using Rotel, that normally gives you enough heat unless you like it really spicy. I'm gonna use a few jalapenos. I don't have any fresh jalapenos right now. You could also use those. Seeds are gonna make it hotter. If you don't want it as hot, you can take the seeds out. These are some jalapenos from our garden last summer that we canned, and they are really spicy, so I'm not gonna use very much of those. Do you wanna pour these in? Alright, so using a blender or food processor is really easy. We're just going to dump all this in. I drained the tomatoes to get most of the liquid off, so our salsa will be a little bit thicker. That's good. And then we're just going to pulse all of that together. Yep, put that on. No, not yet. Just put the jalapeno and the onion. And you can customize it however you want, if you like it spicier or not as spicy. If you like cilantro or not, nope, the cilantro too. If you like cilantro or not, you can also add a little bit of fresh lime juice to fresh salsa. If you have that on hand and want to add that, that adds some flavor as well. Yep, so make sure so we're just going to pulse that a few times. You don't really want to blend it up too much because it's going to get really liquidy. We just want to pulse it a few times. We do need to add a little salt. So we'll do that before it pulses up. So for that amount, I would start with about half a teaspoon or so, and then taste it. It's to taste, so you can add as much or as little as you want to it. Alright, now go. He always wants to taste the sauce. So then after you get it pulsed together, just make sure you taste it.
Maybe a little more salt.
You think? Maybe just a little bit? Pretty spicy already, isn't it? Those jalapenos are pretty spicy. Alright, so maybe just a tiny bit more salt in ours. But just taste it, make sure it's flavored the way that you want it to. And then that's going to be ready to go. And it's fresh salsa is always going to taste way better than a jar salsa is going to. Especially if you put some cilantro in it, just pulse it once or twice. Alright, we're gonna grill our chicken and our veggies for our fajitas. It just tastes way better that way. If you need to do it inside, you can absolutely do that. I'm gonna use a grill basket and I'm gonna put the veggies in that to cook. Excess liquid in your bag, you want to try to pull that off. I didn't have too much extra in my bag, but I got the rest still in there. The chicken, we want to just make sure we pull that out individually and lay that on. We are really careful with our hand, and that we also dispose of any of the marinade that was in our bag left over and get rid of that bag because it has raw chicken juice in it. And we'll shut the lid and we'll let these cook for a little bit on one side. We'll flip them over, and we need to cook our chicken to 165. So we just got the chicken and the veggies put on the grill. Like I said, if you don't have access to a grill or don't want to do it that way, you can just put a little bit of olive oil in a skillet on the stove. And cook your onions and your peppers in that. And then you can bake your chicken or your beef, whichever it is, in the oven until it gets to 350, till 165. Cook it at 350 until the chicken gets to 165, or your beef would need to go to 155. So finishing up stuff for our cilantro lime rice, our timer went off, so we're at 5 minutes past. So we want to let that go to 10. Past when the timer goes off, and then we're gonna do a quick release for whatever is left on that. And then I want some cilantro to go in it, so I'm going to just cut the bottom of the bundle off. And like we've talked about before, pull off any of the big stems. If you've got big stems in there, just makes it a little bit more, texture's better when you eat it. And then we're just gonna do a rough chop on this. Ryan's almost got our lime zest done, and then we're gonna zest or get some juice out of that lime, and we're going to add that to our rice once we're able to take the lid off. Yep, that looks pretty good. And our salsa is done. We got that done just a little bit ago. It should be nice and thick like that. You don't want to process it until it is a complete liquid. Okay, so we got the cilantro cut up, and it's just in a rough chop. And then we're going to cut the lime in half. Between the two ends, so we're able to juice it. You want to juice it? Oh, stick it in there like you're going to eat it. Yep, pushing it in the middle. And then squeeze and twist. So the 10 minutes that I've on the Instant Pot. After I got done with the 3 minutes, so we're going to take the lid off now. And then you're just going to flip up that rice. All the rice should hold its own individual grains, and nothing should be stuck to the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and add in, so this was the juice from the lime, yep, and then lime zest. And then we're going to stir our cilantro in. And you can do this part gradually if you don't want a lot of lime or don't want a lot of cilantro, you could just do regular rice. But this is really good as a side to go with your fajitas, or you can make a burrito bowl out of it and put your fajita meat and veggies on top of it. Alright, so one last optional step here, and this is what our rice looks nice and pretty. You can also add in a tablespoon of butter if you want. That's just going to give it a little bit more flavor. Stir that up, that'll melt because your rice is hot. And then we'll put the lid back on and we'll just keep that warm until our fajitas are ready. And we probably need to go check and see if it's time to flip the meat over to the other side. Alright, so we're just going to keep stirring up our onions and our peppers. You're just going to cook those until they're softened. And then our chicken, we need to flip to the other side. Second side with our chicken. Our grill has a probe in it that we can monitor the temperature of the meat. So if you have one of those, that's great. You can stick it in the thickest part of one of the chicken breasts or whatever meat it is that you're cooking, and then we can monitor that temperature from our phone. If you don't have one of those, that's fine. You would just want to make sure you're checking with a regular thermometer as you think it's starting to get close to being done. We just want to make sure that our chicken gets to 165. I always tell you, make sure you use a thermometer. If you don't have one, get one. You don't want to overcook your chicken. That's going to dry it out, or any meat. You want to make sure you're hitting the right temperature for food safety, but also for flavor. We only have massive tortillas at home right now, but I went ahead, since the grill's on, I just threw the tortillas on the grill just for a few seconds. We don't want them to get crispy or anything, just to warm them up a little bit. They'll give them a little bit of flavor. We've already moved everything else inside, so we'll go ahead and go get our chicken cut up. We have all of our chicken cooked. The onions and the peppers weren't quite as soft as I wanted them to be, so I went ahead and brought them inside and put them in a skillet for just these last few minutes. We want to let any meat rest for 10 minutes before you cut into it. That's going to help keep the juices in it. So these I took off a little bit earlier. They got done faster, so I've had those sitting. We'll cover those up that we just took out. And then we're going to slice our chicken. And we're just going to cut small little strips, about 1/4 of an inch or so. You want to try it already? And I'm going to wait. So we're just going to get all of that sliced up, and then we're going to be ready to assemble a plate. If you cook beef instead of the chicken, you'll want to make sure that you cut across the grain of the meat that you are cooking, and we're doing the same thing. So you just want to make sure that if you see the lines running this way on your beef, that you're cutting opposite of that, and that'll help make sure that it's more tender as well. With beef, especially if you're doing a plank steak or something like that, you want to slice it just as thin as you can. The chicken is a little bit more tender, so you can cut it a little bit thicker if you want to, but still nice thin strips are going to work really well for you. Okay, you ready to make your plate? Okay, do you want a tortilla?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we have our grilled, thank you. Okay, so we have fajita, or a tortilla that we warmed up on the grill, and then we want chicken, and a little bit of onions and peppers, just a little.
Then cheese and salsa.
Alright, and you want cheese and salsa. Do you want your rice on the side then?
Yeah.
You want sour cream? Alright, so there's Ryan. Oh, looks really good, doesn't it? We'll fold his up like a burrito since we have such a big tortilla. And we'll do just a little rice. Looks really good. You gonna get a fork to try your rice? And then I'm gonna make a burrito bowl, so I'm going to put just a little bit of rice in a bowl and then add all of our toppings to that, and that's delicious as well. And so it's great if you make extra, because then you can have fajitas one night, and then you can have a burrito bowl the next day for lunch, and you have all of that already. You can add a little sour cream if you want. This is also really good with guacamole. Here, try it. I like to take an avocado and mash it up and then add some sour cream and some salsa to it. That's really good. We have avocados, they're just not ripe yet. So you're just diving in. You started? How is it? Really good, huh? This is one of our favorites. The salsa's delicious, the rice is good. You haven't tried it yet, though, have you? Well, you snuck a taste earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You're sneaking it before some taste test it.
Really good.
Yeah. All right. Should we plates for Daddy and Adeline so we can wait?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck, and can't wait to see what you guys make.